transforming lives.
It's Wednesday, the 15th of November, 2023. Actually, we are mid-month, and you are most welcome to the program, the Mid-Morning Park. Of course, today is Wednesday Leadership, or Leadership Wednesday. And of course, we have a very, very interesting program that we've prepared for you, and we are glad that you found time to be with us. Of course, you know, when it is on Wednesday Leadership, we discuss, we look at, and we dig deeper into matters leadership across different spheres in our society, in the country, across the 47 counties, be it in education, be it in agriculture, be it in health, be it even in matters business, and so on and so forth. And today we are going to focus on a very significant area that has actually made headlines across the country for a very long time, and even in the past regimes, and that is the matter on affordable housing. This is a subject that has been attracting attention from subsequent governments. You remember even in the former president's regime, that is former President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime, one of the four main agendas was affordable housing. And of course, the government and even other stakeholders have been coming up with the different policies and with the different modalities just to ensure that there is something that is done to ensure that Kenyans can actually stay or live in affordable quality houses. Now, what would it require for this particular program, or for this particular project, for this particular dream to be realized? This is the subject that we are going to tackle today. And of course, on the set, I'm also being joined by my colleague, Bwana Paul Kagi. It's good to see you. A very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning. How are you? How is your day so far?
We are doing well, and we thank God for this other beautiful day that we are meeting here right on the Mid-Morning Park on Wednesday Leadership.
Right, and dear viewer, welcome again to the program whereby every Wednesday we give you a chance to be able to meander over political and leadership issues. And today we are here again to be able to enlighten you on many matters that are in line with leadership. Once again, welcome to the program. Paul Kagi is my good name.
Yes, thank you so much. And of course, in a short while, we'll be getting into the general analysis of events and, of course, news that have actually been hitting headlines in this 1 week. We'll be getting into that. But of course, again, we always have a guest during this particular show. And today we have a guest that we did an interview with, and she is an expert in matters to do with housing, and she's also the director, Ultimate Home Finishes. She will be telling us, and she'll also be giving us information and helping us to understand about this particular program. When you talk about affordable housing, what do we mean? What it would require for us as a county to realize the success of this particular dream. So we did an interview with Rahab Wangoi, who is an expert in matters housing, and also the director, Ultimate Home Finishes, and you can expect that particular interview in a short while as we continue with this particular discussion. But also remember that we always invite your views, we also invite your contributions so that we can make it as interactive as possible. And we have a question that we've put out for you, and that is, what is your view on the state of government's affordable housing program? Of course, the government of His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. And remember, the government has come up with a plan, program. It has already announced its intention to ensure that it also deals with the housing scarcity in the country. And there is a framework that they've already put in place. But 1 year down the line, we want to find out also from you, what is your take? What do you think maybe could be some of the bottlenecks, some of the challenges that could actually be facing this particular program? We'll appreciate your input, we'll appreciate your views and your opinions on our different platforms. That is 23814. for short code, and of course you can also interact with us on our social media pages. For Facebook, that is MBCI TV, and also for YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. And even as you continue giving us your contribution, our reporter, we also have our reporter Sylvia, who also interacted with Kenyans to also get some of their opinions on what they think about this particular program. We'll also get that particular episode during this Leadership Wednesday show. So you can expect quite a robust and a detailed conversation and discussion on this particular matter. But meanwhile, Kagi, of course, there are quite a number of other issues that have been making headlines across the country in this 1 week.
Correct, and we are going to look one or two issues which really are weighty in our nation. Number one, we know there has been continuing the National Dialogue Committee, which is in the last process of finalizing its report. In fact, today they are supposed to finalize their report and forward the report to the president and the leader of opposition, that is Raila Amolo Odinga. And we know this report has been being geared towards helping our nation to be able to reconcile regarding to one or two issues, and this is after several months of deliberations which are taking place at Bomas of Kenya, right. Whereby the committee, which is a 10-member committee, invited views from various members of the public who came, be it organizations, civil societies, political parties, organizations, and even individuals who came to be able to make their presentation, which is going to bring one document that is going again after being forwarded to the two principals, that is the president and opposition leader, and they sign it. It is going to be taken to the parliament, both the bicameral parliament, for maybe considerations of being created to become bills and passing all those recommendations to be able to bring this matter into an end. But one matter which is an elephant in the room is the issue of the cost of living, right, whereby the opposition, through the sentiments made by the Wiper leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, who is a co-chair of the committee, is that they are not ready to sign this document if the issue of cost of living is not going to be addressed during the report. And we believe, among many other things, these recommendations are going to be brought in the report, and therefore Parliament is going to make good deliberations before we think of how we are going to legalize this matter. And it's good to mention that there are other issues away from the cost of living, which has been mentioned adversely in the report, and by many quarters. We have other areas like the issue of creation of the office of Prime Cabinet Secretary, and also the office of the leader of official opposition. It is not the first time we have the office of leader of official opposition. There was a time this office was there, and we want to return it back to our constitution to be able to run as a legal office. And they had reached a consensus on 2/3 gender principle, which has also been a problem in our parliaments. And therefore we believe that, Mangicho, yes, in the next couple of days, this report is going to be finalized, received by the two principals, and we see whether the two camps are going to support the document before it is being taken to the both houses.
Yes, and it's quite a very important area, Kagi, as you've put it, because this is something that most Kenyans have actually been looking forward to. And remember, this National Dialogue Committee was established after we saw the effects and the impact that were caused by the demonstrations from the opposition in line with the fiasco surrounding the past general election. And of course, there is a lot of hope, or most Kenyans have actually been hoping that this particular committee is not just going to sit just for the sake of it, but they are going to come up with the deliberations, and they are going to come up with the recommendations that, of course, will enhance the standard of living of the common wananchi. So I think that particular area that the opposition, I had Kalonzo Musyoka, who is actually one of the co-chairs of this particular committee, saying if this particular issue on the cost of living is not going to be featured, then you're not going to append our signature to this particular report. Now, this is very interesting because as we speak today, one of the most crucial things that any Kenyan will actually come and tell you, Kagi, is that what is affecting us is matters to do with the cost of living. And therefore, I totally think that if it doesn't feature, if there is nothing that we are really going to see as a country being done in relation to the cost of living, in as far as this particular report is concerned, then maybe most Kenyans will think that these people have actually taken us for a ride. Because when you look at these other issues, they could be important, but how they really affect the average Kenyan directly is a question that most people, is a question that will linger in most people's minds. Talk about the office of the official opposition, talk about the office of the prime cabinet secretaries. Yes, they look good, they look nice, especially on the face value. But in terms of directly having that effect on the average Kenyan, maybe most people will not see. But if we look at the issue of cost of living, anything or any recommendation, then we know directly that this is going to affect Kenyans. And I think that is why maybe most Kenyans will want to find out what will be the recommendations of this particular committee. Yes, and it's good to be able to pray that these recommendations are going to be of positive impact to our nation. It is not the first time that we are coming together as a country after election. It has become now like a culture whereby after election we have some issues that we raise and we sit down and see how we can be able to iron them. Some of these issues that we are raising today, Mangicho, they were raised in various reports. There was what was called the Judge Kligler report after the post-election violence. There were various good recommendations to be able to bring our country together. There was also the Waki report, which also had some areas that they had identified is becoming a problem to our country, especially after election. Right. You also remember the Kofi Annan team. They had also made some recommendations on how to be able to bring our country together. Even the previous regime, there was an agreement which was culminating to a review of our constitution by the name BBI. It was also the same recommendations that has been made for several seasons. And even today, as we're talking about the National Dialogue Committee, it is doing the same job. And personally, my big prayer is that we bring this matter into a close, whereby these issues have been handling for many years, that we bring them into a close by maybe allowing them to be legally identified. Absolutely. And maybe just one more point on that, Kagi. Of course, we wouldn't want a situation whereby we've had such a committee having sittings for maybe a period of 1 month, maybe 2 months, okay? Some other sittings maybe have even taken almost 3 months, only maybe for them not to bear any fruit. So most Kenyans will want to find out then, why did we have this kind of sitting even in the first place? So I really want to believe that it is important, very pertinent for us to ensure that we do everything that is possible. We don't want just to imagine that the Kalonzo Musyoka and Kimani Ichung'wah committee just sat for nothing, and there is nothing that we can actually see out of that particular sitting that they had at Bomas. All right. UDA is about to hold its elections, I think, next month. And, you know, it has been a matter which has been deliberated by the neck of the party. And one matter is coming up here, the position of the deputy party leader is becoming a hot cake here, whereby there has been a recommendation whereby some members of the party are proposing that we have 2 or 3 deputy party leaders. And this proposal has really irked the
members of parliament and even other leaders in Mount Kenya region who are saying this is a deliberate procedure to be able to edge out or neutralize the influence of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who they say the Mount Kenya region where he comes from is a biggest shareholder in UDA. And therefore the Mount Kenya politicians are pushing for a single leader, a deputy leader of the party. And they are saying that there's no way this is going to happen. And Khalwale yesterday talks about something which is very sensitive, that they are not going to allow next time to become joyriders in any political party. And they are saying that this region, in the next elections, they are the ones who are going to take the leadership of this country, particularly 2032. And going by the sentiments of Honorable Khalwale, which is the majority whip in the parliament, I think this one is a matter that the Mount Kenya region is not taking lightly, led by Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga, who says, no, we are. The two communities are the ones who are making up this party. And therefore, we need to be respected. This position needs to be reserved for us, not only deputy party leader, but also the position of the Secretary General. They want this position to be left for the Mount Kenya region.
Yes.
And therefore, this could speak volumes about what we expect in these elections. But there's one thing the President had mentioned about the elections, that is better to do the elections earlier. If there are going to be some fallout, there are going to be some complaints, there are going to be some issues, we rectify them earlier. Instead of waiting for a year before election is when we are running to put some officials. It's not healthy for the party.
Sure. And actually, you've talked about some of the leaders like Nyeri Governor, that is Honorable Mutahi Kahiga. And actually, there is a quote that I'm seeing here on the Standard where he's saying, as a teacher, I have learned in psychology that when one is brought up in a violent relationship, he ends up being violent. But we hope President William Ruto, who was in a toxic relationship with the former president, will not end up in such a situation. Then we have one Edward Muriu, who is the UDA Secretary of Legal Affairs and is also the Member of Parliament for Gatanga. This is what he's saying. I can quote him. There is no contradiction at all. We intend to give Mudavadi and Wetangula the two positions, even as we continue to ask them to fold their parties. The two leaders are already in government. Now, Kagi, it's quite clear that different leaders have taken different positions in as far as this particular matter is concerned. But I think we are coming from a situation whereby we as a country, we have issues to do with our political parties. It's all about trust. It's all about who is commanding this particular party. It's all about whether my interest will actually be looked into in this particular party. And that is why you find that most Kenyans will still want to have a way in which they can have their own quote-unquote tribal or regional parties. And that is why when you maybe move to Western ANC for Kenya, of course, they are the ones that are going to be dominant. Maybe when you come to Rift Valley, UDA, of course, Central, again, of course, we saw UDA, maybe parts of Nyanza, ODM, and so on and so forth. So I think it is important that it's a matter, I think, that is quite huge, and we just want to hope, because I think most Kenyans will not want a situation like we saw in the former regime, whereby the president differed with his deputy. Most Kenyans are hoping that at least, because we know when the two front leaders are actually working together and they have a good relationship, then it augurs well for the country, even in terms of harmonious living and even carrying out development projects. So when a matter like this one comes in, and of course we know the president is in the UDA, the deputy is in the UDA, and there is anything that might actually come or might seem to come to actually injure that good relationship or camaraderie that they've been having, then it becomes a major concern. But again, as you've said, those who maybe call the shots. You don't know what their interest could be. Of course, there are those who are arguing that Mudavadi is also being groomed and is also being given some position and some strength so that he can also manage the deputy president in terms of influence and maybe popularism. Okay, so these are some of the intrigues that we are going to see, but we're hoping it's not going to affect the development and also the harmonious living of the people of Kenya.
Right. And finally, Honorable Kindiki, the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kithure Kindiki, has revoked a Gazette notice that increased fees for key documents such as ID, passport, marriage certificate, and so forth and so on. Kenyans have really been on his neck for the last 3 days.
Yes.
Yeah, and maybe tweeting, WhatsApping, memeing, a lot of things regarding to what the CS really wrote in the Gazette notice. Yes. And it was really disturbing to them. Yesterday I could listen to some clergies who were saying that allowing those people who want to legalize their marriages to pay, was it 50K or 100K? 50K, to be able to get that certificate is really a way of maybe stopping people from legalizing their marriages. And we thank God that he has retracted his steps, and he says that the reason why he has done so is to allow Kenyans to give their views on this. And I think Kenyans have already given their views.
Yeah. Actually, Kagi, I think this matter is really amazing because number one, you know, sometimes it is not very good for government to make some of these very reckless maybe statements, okay? Because at the first point, maybe one would wonder, so what really informed the first action that they took, okay? Because this one caught a lot of Kenyans by surprise. And of course, we want to believe that before maybe the government takes any particular step, they have consulted, okay? We have those who are advisors of the government in terms of policy. There are those who advise the government in terms of law. There are those who advise the government in terms of maybe even other programs that are very important. So that any time we will hear maybe an official from the government coming up to declare or to announce a particular position, a particular action, maybe a particular take, then it is something that has actually been thought about. It's something that has actually been consulted upon, and there is it has become seamless, and there is that particular unity or agreement on that particular matter. So when this particular statement was actually given, or when it was announced by the minister, most Kenyans were very bitter. Kagi, this one is also coming at a time when most Kenyans are actually going through a lot in terms of the economic situation.
Correct.
And now you are just coming up with a declaration that those who are going to have the ID or to misplace the IDs, to replace them, it will be at a cost of 2,000 shillings.
New IDs, 1,000.
New IDs, 1,000 passports from, I don't know, 4,500 to
7,500.
It was obvious this was going to be met with a lot of rage from Kenyans, with a lot of disappointment, with a lot of noise. That one was going to be seen. And even in terms of law, it was automatic that anyone who was going to take this one to the court, definitely the court was going to give them that particular room. So it doesn't really paint a very good picture. And then again, Kagi, I'm also wondering, when the government says that they are going to get the public participation, okay? They're going to consult Kenyans on this. What are we really talking about? So what does the government really expect Kenyans to tell them?
And you see, this matter is very weighty, and I think my own thinking is that the CS really feared that someone might go to court to be able to get an injunction to stop the implementation of this this document, which they have already done it. And I think the only thing that the CS would lose in court is maybe when they say that this matter didn't go through the public participation. Anything that is of public interest should go through public participation. I think is giving room until December 10. I also feel that this matter, they want to pursue it to the end. Okay? Maybe they just want to allow Kenyans to use the legal formula of public participation, and then after the participation, it brings them back. But it's good to Kenyans to come out and speak their mind about these levies and fees in the new documents, which they're saying are very punitive, right?
Sure. Of course, just expecting those or that particular exercise, and we are expecting Kenyans, but of course, it will be very challenging, or it will be very difficult to expect that Kenyans will want to recommend, okay? Like, for example, that replacing an identity card, the fee should come from maybe partly 100 or 300 to 2,000, okay? Who are actually going to recommend something like that? So I think, I don't know whether it is one of the ways in which maybe the government still wants to ensure that it gets as much money as possible, just like the way they did for the house levy. But of course, we are going to see and maybe hope that this is not really going again to be a major burden for the millions of Kenyans who are already overburdened by other economic aspects. Yes.
Hey.
Yeah, and of course, I think those are some of the stories that have actually been making headlines across this particular 1 week. But as we've said, Kagi, our main area of discussion today is actually going to be the housing program, or affordable housing. And you know that this is a program that this government has also given it a lot of consideration, and they are looking forward to every year coming up with our building 250 units, okay, every year. But I think it is important for us to give it the weight that it deserves, looking at it also from the perspective of what maybe could have happened in the former regime, because it was actually one of the major agendas. You remember the Agenda 4, which really got a lot of limelight. So one of them was actually affordable housing.
Right.
So it's a very important subject for us to be able to give it the weight that it deserves.
Okay.
Yes.
And many questions are in waiting also from Kenyans on how this program is going to be implemented. And I was asking myself one question. If someone is maybe being charged twice, for example, you're working in this institution, and then you're being charged the house levy, you have another institution, you're being charged house levy. Does it mean that you're going to get a bigger house than others, or you're going to get two because you're contributing twice? You're contributing twice as an individual, and the other two individuals who are your employer who are also contributing twice.
So whether you're going to have an advantage of consideration.
Yes.
Quite an interesting perspective there. So let's get a short break at this particular point. Of course, we'll come back and we'll get some interviews and also to get some opinions from Kenyans through a Vox Pop that we did with our reporter Sylvia, and we'll get to hear what Kenyans are saying about this particular program. And of course, later on, we have a guest that we had already hinted to you, who will also help us to understand about this particular program and what really needs to be done to ensure that we have a success in the implementation of the same. Let's get that break as we plan to come back with much more.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Kulia ni kui na kunyoroka. Nyoro. Kunyoroka? Nyoro.
I think we need to think our future.
Anataka uniseme national anthem bila kuimba. Mbio twende.
Mungu nguvu yetu. Iwe milele.
Okay.
Ilete baraka kwetu. Najua tu kuimba. Najua tu kuimba. Ilete baraka kwetu, nasi ni ngao na mlinzi. Tukaenda.
Ajizi ni
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Aliyepagawa.
aya, charger manual na automatic gani na charger haraka?
Sasa hapo sasa itavari tu na nini. Mimi nadhani na vari tu na hiyo betri inachajiwa. Voltage ya betri ni gani? Sababu huwezi sema ati voltage ya ka transformer itajaza haraka kushinda voltage ya simu.
Anda zako wewe.
Lisa School.
My name is David Ogola. I'm a business person. I would say naturally when I was in high school, I used to tell people that I would want to be a business person. Then there's this uncle of mine who used to come from Nairobi to visit us, and he had money.
Yes.
He had the money in a briefcase. I was asking, what do you do? I used to hear him saying, I'm doing sales. I'm not yet there, but I'm on that direction.
Yeah.
So I would want to give also another platform for people who are like me, who had a vision somewhere and they need a platform where they can excel. That is what I want to create. You have to be up to date because things keep changing every day. Marketing is a very, very interesting course or career for someone to pursue. It's lifestyle. It's what you live.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
So hi.
Hi,
What's your name?
Mark.
Okay, so Mark, what is your take on the current plan and strategy that the government has put in place, your affordable housing? Do you think they will see it through till the end?
In my opinion, I will say that it's a good initiative, but we don't have a clear plan on how this thing is going to work. So it's kind of a bond to fail, because we of course know who we are. We are Kenyans, and if this initiative was good, it would have been given to National Construction Authority rather than the government itself taking it as a responsibility to build houses for people, because not unless they're telling us they want to build houses for people in slum areas, it is a liability on our pockets. That's what I would say. But in the long term, if the plan is good, then don't force us. Let us buy the idea if the idea is good.
Hiyo mjengo hiyo sio mzuri, kwa sababu sisi tuko na njaa. Mahindi tulikuwa tunanunua shilingi 10, sasa moja ni mbao na 30, kununua tunanunua 10. Sasa alisema atakuja kuteremsha mambo na bado kuteremsha. Sasa ni hasara gani sisi tuko na njaa? Alisema atatusaidia, la hakuna kusaidia, ametusaidia.
Mpango wa affordable housing unaunga mkono ama unasema achane na
hiyo? Mimi siungi mkono, kwa sababu wale watu watakuwa na pesa ndio wataenda huko. Hii masikini hawezi pata hiyo nyumba, hawezi pata gumu, kwa sababu yeye watapatia wale wako na pesa, lakini wale wana hawezi pata kitu. Kama sisi tuna sasa tuachane nayo kabisa. Sitaki hiyo. Hiyo ni wale wakubwa wako na pesa. Kama wewe hasira utapata na hiyo na nyumba na mlagani na una pesa. Na pesa ndio ina mambo yote.
It's just haitafika, hakuna pahali itaenda. Yeah. Kwa sababu ya vile economy iko. Yeah. Waachane.
Sidhani kama ita go through, because everything in Kenya, it's all about cartel. So probably it's still a cartel trying to hit from that other side. Kamela BRT stations, tuko na wakadanganya kuna bus zitakuja, lakini it didn't go on well. So it's a lie. Sioni kama ita happen. Juu kama hiyo ili fail, of which it was to serve each and everyone, sidhani kama ita go through. Yeah.
For me, I think they will make it, because kuna many projects zenye wamenini wame try ku bring out, na let's give them a chance because I think they will make it. Yeah.
So people should be patient and give the government a chance.
Let's be patient and give the government a chance because then kitu ishaanza yani. So I guess they will, because if wangekuwa hawakuwa maybe stress in it, then haingekuwa imeanza. You see kuna zile zimeanza kujengwa and all that. Yeah.
Okay, kulingana mimi sidhani wata make, kwa sababu hata watu wengi wanalalamika sana kuhusu hiyo kitu. I think mimi naweza taka waache kila mtu ajitegemee kulingana na mambo. Juu sasa hiyo kitu si tumekaa sana bila kulipa. Juu hii kitu hata itasaidia kila mtu. Hata watu watakatwa ma taxes na wengi wataishi tu akilia tu. Wenye watasaidika ni watu wadogo sana. Tena hata inaweza kuwa hadi ni watu wenye wako juu, wenye wako na mishahara kubwa kubwa. Lakini watu wenye wako chini sana sana hawatasaidika. Tutaendelea tu kufinyiliwa.
Tukiwapatia time inaweza. But sasa mimi kitu yenye naona hiyo strategy yenye walikuja nayo ndio bado I make sense. Sababu unaona situation yenye watu walikuwa na situation watu wako mpaka saa hizi. So venye wamekuja wakaingiza ndani wakati yenye uchumi wetu bado iko down sana, ndio at least inafinya watu sana. So at least kama wangeweza tu kwanza kutengeneza mambo kwanza ikuje ikue sawa, mwananchi akue fiti, ndio kuja sasa introduce kitu kama hiyo, ingekuwa poa sana. Lakini wameiharakisha sana, so inafinya sana wananchi. For the time being, wangetengeneza kwanza uchumi kamfiti, unaona? Watu wako stable, at least mtu anaweza weka hata food kwa meza, at least mtu anaweza hata run ya biashara yake fiti bila hiccup yote. Alafu after hiyo sasa ndio kuja sasa introduce nini? Wa introduce kitu kama hiyo housing. Lakini sasa unacheki tu jua wamechukua serikali, wame introduce housing. Na mwananchi bado anaumia. Sasa unaona inakuwa hiccup kubwa sana.
Kitu cha kwanza sioni kama inaweza saidia watu wote, na actually kwa saa hii project kuna vitu zingine zilikuwa za maana. Inaweza saidia watu ndio, yes, lakini kuna vitu zingine zilikuwa za maana juu kwa saa hii nchi haina pesa, watu hawana pesa. Na unaona saa hii house levy imewekwa ni kama must, na watu in fact hawana. Sasa nitasema aje, saa hii ukiangalia watu wako na shida mingi sana, high cost of living. So mimi nilikuwa naona ndio inaweza waka, lakini kuna vitu zingine zilikuwa za maana kuliko hiyo mambo ya housing, na sidhani kama itasaidia all the people. Wanastahili wasimamishe hiyo project juu kuna shida mingi ziko na Wakenya. Kwanza watatue hizo, at least economy ikuje saa hii bado mpaka wanalala ja. So kitu cha kwanza wagesimamisha hiyo, alafu kwanza washughulikie mambo ya economy.
Haitafikianwa kwa sababu sioni venye inasaidia watu. Unakata mtu mshahara, yani unamkata nini mshahara yake, na ule mtu ni hasara. Kitu cha kwanza huyu msee anajiita hasara. Yeye mwenyewe ni tajiri. Unaona yeye si ajitoree, maybe aende kwa street achukue wale maboys, unaona, awapeleke wakae kwa hizo manyumba. Hebu angalia kuna watu wamejaza mashamba, alafu mtu anakota kodi. Hiyo inasaidia na nini? Kwa sababu nikakupea example na mimi shamba yetu imetoka kutoka hapa je kwa dadi kwa mto. Sasa utaniambiaje utanitengea nyumba? Haiwezi make. Kwa sababu ile mshahara dogo napata, wewe unanikata. Baadaye nijikimu kimaisha, wewe unanikata. Kama hiyo walikuwa nasema 3%. Hiyo hata at least wangesema 1%. Unaona? Na tena si kwa kila mtu. Wao kwanza wanafaa kukatwa kama 10%. Juu wao ndio wako na kichiri. Unaona? Sasa tuseme ure hoka ako pale. Yeah? Ile kuku anauza pale inampea faida ya 50. Unaona? Akiuza so. Alafu umemkata 30 bob. Amebakia mbao. Na huyu msee ako na watoi anarea. Wewe kwako kumejazana na makuku nini, hakuna kitu umekosa. Alafu nakuja kuambia mraia ati utamkata kodi umjengee nini, umripie nyumba. Unamripia aje? Huyu msee amejiweza penye yako.
Yeah, those are Kenyans giving their opinions, giving their views, giving their perspectives on what they think about the government's affordable housing program. And of course, in a short while, we'll also get another interview that we did with an expert on matters housing, that is Rahab Wangoi. But just before that, Kagi, you've had Kenyans, and they're raising quite a number of very significant issues, even as this particular program is concerned. And there is the feeling that in as much as it is an important project, it's an important aspect, but there are other economical issues that are quite also significant, and they should have been given priority. And I think maybe the first thing that maybe most Kenyans are really, they really want to find out, or they really want the government maybe to take charge of, is the runaway cost of living. Yes.
Yeah, I think that is the main thing. I have heard there are two sets of people here. There are those who are optimistic, in fact three. Those who are optimistic that this program is going to succeed. Number two, who are saying it is not possible at all. They don't even have a clue what is going to be done. Number three, those who are saying, yes, it is possible, not possible. Let's give the government time opportunities to be able to perform the project. And the most, I think, sensitive area is where people are giving out their finances, but back in their minds and deep within their hearts, they know they are not going to get value for their money. Okay? But the president has been very categorical. That
those who have already begun to be taxed.
Yes.
On the house levy. Yes.
And already deep within the hearts, they believe and they know they are not going to get these houses. Although the government has been very categorical that these houses are going to be done. But
and majority of these are actually those who we can actually call the middle class, Kagi.
Yes.
But again, looking at those who are also even below the middle class, those maybe who just rely on almost maybe less than $1 a day.
Yes.
They don't have formal employment. And these are the ones that even maybe people are wondering, and maybe they are the ones that are actually in very, very large numbers. Yes.
Yeah, because nobody was expecting those who are in formal sector to be able to pay the house levy. And also, I think what is lacking again is the program for building these houses has not been elaborate. And people are expecting by this time the government to have come up with an elaborate program on how these houses are going to be constructed, and also the distribution formula. I don't know whether you could remember the days of the county councils, whereby to get a space for putting your kiosk was a huge task. Sometimes people could fight the whole day for that space. And therefore we should learn from the past and come up with a very solid and elaborate formula on the payment plans and model, and also on how these houses are going to be subdivided.
To be subdivided, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so when it comes to information, I think that is, and because even as you've heard from that particular interview that was done by our reporter Sylvia Wanja, you find that there is scarcity of information.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things, or one of the issues that is even maybe discouraging so many Kenyans. That yes, we've heard there is this particular program. We've heard that the government has announced, but we don't understand how it is happening. We don't even have any significant information. Maybe even from the places, their own constituencies.
Yes.
There is nothing that maybe
people
they
ask where is the land?
Yeah.
You know, how are you going to get? How am I going to get my house? How long is it going to take? There was one guy who said that he doesn't believe this project is going to succeed, saying that the country is full of cartels. You remember?
Yeah.
You know, last time we were asking ourselves, how many cartels do we have? When you go to coffee industry, we have a cartel. When it comes to maize industry,
you have a cartel.
We have a cartel. Now again, in the housing program.
You also have cartels.
Yeah. Is their views.
Yeah, I think that one can be quite discouraging. So maybe from the interview that we are going to get with Rahab Wangoi, who is an expert in matters housing and also the director Ultimate Home Finishes, she'll be in a position to help us to understand where are we coming from, and also maybe looking at the previous regime, the Uhuru Kenyatta regime. What is it, because they also had this particular plan, what is it that maybe did not work out well for them, so that we can be able to see what is it that maybe we can do during this particular time and ensure that we have success. Because again, it's quite a complex project, and a duration maybe of 5 years for a particular government is not that much. We are now saying 1 year is already down, so we are like 4 more years. And remember, the last year of any government is also the campaigning year, so in most cases, most people also don't count that particular year. So we can have that particular interview, and of course, once the interview is done, we'll be back here with the Paul Kagi to also have some of the post review of that particular conversation. Let's get that particular interview with Rahab Wangoi. Hello and very good morning to you. Thank you so much. Of course, it is on Wednesday. You are watching the mid-morning pack, and of course, it is Wednesday leadership. Now, there is something that is very important in this particular country, and that is affordable housing. Now, this is something that has actually been a major issue that has actually been given attention even since the regime of former President Uhuru Kenyatta. I know most of you will actually remember the Agenda 4, and one of those agendas was actually affordable housing. And of course, we now have President William Ruto. Again, this particular government, the Kenya Kwanza government, has also put a lot of consideration and has paid a lot of attention towards this particular matter on affordable housing. And this is what will, just like we've told you with Paul Kagi, we want to delve into and be in a position to actually see what is it that we mean when you talk about affordable housing. What is it that maybe the government will actually be required to do to ensure that this particular program is actually affordable and is also successful. And we have a guest, of course, to help us get into the details of this particular subject, and that is Madam Rahab Wangoi. She's an expert, of course, in matters to do with housing and also matters to do with building and construction. It is also the director, Ultimate Home Finishes. She's here to help us look at this particular and give us a picture and give us a clear picture of where we are and what maybe needs to be done. Of course, you can also join us, and you can give us also your opinions. You can give us your feedback, your responses as far as this particular discussion is concerned. You know the drill. Catch us on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and of course you can also catch us live on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. And for those interested in our shortcut platform, that is 23814, we'll also be interested in seeing how you respond to this particular subject, even as we continue with this particular show. Rahab Wangoi, karibu sana. Good to see you once again in this particular program, the Mid-Morning Pack, right here on MBCI TV. How are you?
I'm very fine. Thank you so much. Welcome to Artismat.
Asante sana. And of course, we are glad and looking forward to a robust conversation with you on this particular subject. And maybe if we can just begin by just setting the stage. I know this is something, and maybe even so many of our viewers have actually been hearing this particular word or this particular term, affordable housing, and it might not really surprise you that different people have different ideas on what affordable housing means. But I know, at least because you have some knowledge and you are well conversant in this particular field, if you can break it down for us, what we mean when we talk about affordable housing, and why do you think it's a major issue to be focused?
Thank you for having me once again. I'm happy to talk about affordable housing because this is such a huge need in our society today. According to the last census that was done, the population of Kenya is at about 56 million. In fact, as at the end of 2023, it is expected to be at about 57 million. And you will be surprised out of that 57 million, 60% of the population is between the age of 15 and 64. Only about 3% are above 65 years of age. So when we are talking about the need for houses, 60% of the population need to be housed, right? And affordable housing is generally the way people are building houses that a common mwananchi can be able to afford. If you look at the slums in Nairobi, for example, very huge populations of people live there. Many Kenyans are dying as tenants of homes. It's only in the up country, the outside of the towns, where you find people are able to afford a house here and there. And because of the need for the housing being so huge, that is the reason why this topic of affordable housing cannot be overemphasized.
Sure. And it's like a subject is a problem that Rehab we've had for a very long time, especially in this particular country. And that is why subsequent governments have actually been giving it consideration, and even some of the governments, some of the leaders actually making this particular subject to be one of their main agendas, even when they are campaigning. Why do you think maybe could be some of the reasons as to why we've been having a challenge when it comes to affordable housing?
First of all, it's very important to mention that in the previous regime, they had committed to building about 500,000 units. And by the time they were exiting, we still had a shortage of about 200,000 units per year. And the current regime, of course, being optimistic, but is estimating the shortfall to be at about 250,000 units per year. And so this is a serious problem that needs to be addressed. And the main challenge as to why people have not been able to afford a house is because of the high cost that has been there. You know, this industry, the housing industry, has been dominated by the private sector for a long time. And the private sector, of course, is driven by the market forces of demand and supply. And therefore, the houses that have been built have been totally unaffordable to the common mwananchi. And it's only the middle class and the upper class who have been able to afford a home. And so it has become a dire need. And the government has realized that there is a class of people who will never be homeowners. And I guess that is why this story of affordable housing has been pushed by the previous regime and the current regime so much, because, I mean, we are all citizens of this country. I think everybody deserves to own a home.
Exactly. And of course, looking at this very huge population of Kenyans that have not been in a position to obtain or to get access to affordable housing, Rehab, what picture does it draw? How do you think, from where you sit, their lives are affected?
You know, the 36%, according to the World Bank statistics, 36% of Kenyans are below the poverty line, right? When we are talking about below the poverty line, that means that that person, even food is a problem, health is a problem. So what about housing? I mean, when we are talking about basic needs, housing is one of the basic needs. Yes. So these people need to feel like they are not IDPs in their own country, and there is need for us to think about the plight of the poor in the society, to think about the plight of the low middle income citizens, to think about someone who is earning 50,000 shillings and still wants one day to own a home. And therefore, it's very important that we take it positively, because I know that when you talk about affordable housing, everybody jumps and says the government is taxing people on affordable housing without seeing the bigger picture. If you see the bigger picture and you understand the economy of this country and you experience what some people are experiencing, then you will see the importance as to why the government is pushing this agenda, and you will appreciate.
Sure. And actually looking maybe even at an example like you've mentioned, and it's something that maybe most people have actually been finding it very unfortunate. I know we're talking about, when you talk about affordable housing, and also in relation, yes, of course, we're talking about maybe affordable, we're talking about maybe enabling that many Kenyans to be in a position maybe to afford, to be in a position to have a house. When you're looking at maybe affordable housing in relation also maybe to the quality of the houses that you're talking about, what is the relationship?
Yeah, that one, it's very important for people to know. When we're talking about affordable, we are not talking about cheap. When we're talking about a house that is affordable, we mean a decent house built to the standards that are expected for a respectable human being, with proper materials and built to a proper standard. So we are not just, because I mean Ashanti is already an affordable house, but it does not have any respect for human life and the dignity that a human life is supposed to have. So when we are talking about affordable housing, and when you look deep into what the government is talking about when they're talking about affordable housing, they are decent houses. A house that has the basic needs inside. It has a bathroom, it has a toilet, it has space. I think the least size that the government plans to do is a house that can be able to accommodate at least four people comfortably, even if they are calling them studios. If you look at the size, the square area, it is something that is decent. We're not talking about something that that even you is already a pain, even as you live in it. We're talking about an affordable, decent house. Yes.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, it was one of the former regime's main agenda, and also we can actually talk about pillar when they were actually even campaigning. But of course, so many Kenyans maybe felt that not enough was done. But of course, again, we have the current government also giving a lot of consideration, and of course, there was also the issue of now the house levy that salaried Kenyans are now actually paying. Now, what from your understanding, how is it like when it comes maybe into a particular government coming up with the policies of ensuring that it meets the targets of affordable housing for its citizens?
Like I say, we are still challenged. And you can imagine the previous regime was very optimistic, but we are limited. Our GDP is limited. We're still dependent on external funding, sometimes by the developed countries, to help us to enable us to be able to do some of these projects. And those are some of the issues probably that would have contributed for them not to be able to meet the targets. But if you look at what was done, there was something that was done. If you go to Kibera, you will find some high-rise buildings that are housing some of the people who are living in the slums. So some of it has been done, not to completion. And of course, during the campaign period, we are promised a lot of things. But when you come to implementation, you might find some challenges that might make them not to be able to do that. And probably that's why this current regime, instead of talking about 500,000, they are talking about 250,000 per year. And because of financing, which I believe might have been the challenge as to why they were not able to accomplish what was done, the government currently, under the framework of the housing, the new affordable housing concept, intends to do 3 types of affordable houses, and one of the categories is the market-driven one, which is able to, that means that it is driven by the forces of the demand and supply. Right. Meaning that some of these houses will be open to people who are able to afford and will be sold at the current market rates. Because the government needs to generate revenue to be able to continue with the project. So they have categorized it into 3. There are social housing for the very low income earners, and there's according to the reports that we are in our knowledge, expect the houses, the social houses, sell at about 140,000 to you can be able to own a house. Okay. And then from there we have the affordable house for the middle income people, the workers, somebody earning 100,000 or 50,000. This is like the normal mortgage we take, and that one also is a little bit expensive. Not very expensive, but it makes it affordable, and that's what we're calling affordable houses. The first one is social, the second one is affordable, and so then we have now the market driven, meaning the government also recognizes they will not be able to afford if they are dependent on housing. They will still sell these houses, and hopefully when they develop, they gather enough financing, maybe they will be able to meet their expectations. Yeah.
It's an eye-opener. And considering that we have a very huge population again that actually depends on getting houses as tenants, okay? And what do you think of these? Maybe this is something that we've had for a very long time. So many of our being tenants and maybe renting houses for a very long time in their life. If you look at the importance of the contribution of this in relation to building the economy, this the government also maybe helping people to actually have their own homes.
I think what the government has noticed, is that rent does not get out of woods. It doesn't even mean you're living just because you're paying rent. And when you look at the affordable housing initiative, it's giving you a house, telling to you 1 million shillings. For information, they have already released the rates at which they are going to finance those houses, all right? Because, like I said, they must sell these houses, but they will be sold at a very affordable rate. For example, the socials, the interest rate is only going to be 3%, right? If you're buying the affordable house, the interest rate is 6% only. If you're buying the market-driven one, you can imagine the interest rates currently in the market. The government is only going to charge you 9% of this. So if you think about that money, they are also giving you 30 years duration to pay off. It's going to be cheaper than rent. And if someone is able to use less money to own something rather than using more money for something to never be yours, obviously this person remains with some finances that can be utilized to do other things to grow our family. So the concept is very well thought out. Only people can understand and appreciate what the government is trying to do. I think it will be, and the fact that it is spread throughout the nation. I mean, it's not done in all counties, in all sub-counties. So if we can take the initiative and avoid the issues that that have always been this nation, like corruption and like, I think we should be able to accomplish and to achieve what the regime is looking at.
Yeah. That's a very well thought out idea. Let's shift gears a little bit here. And of course, one of the issues that maybe the government has talked about is looking at how this particular program can actually bring about the creation of job opportunities. I know you're also very well conversant in this particular sector. What do you think would be the contribution? Of course, I know it's a challenge that you're having in this particular round when you're talking about employment. How far can you in solving this particular?
The levels of unemployment in this nation are very high, and the tertiary unemployment is even worse. It's not, people talk about graduates not having jobs, but if you look at the demographic of our population, the people who don't even have the so-called white-collar skills is a lot. And these are the people who are needed in this affordable housing. Now, if you think about 250,000 per year, And you think about how much a project requires and the workforce and the labor. By the way, you need to understand that when you're doing construction, labor is almost 50% of the cost of product of construction. So when the government is thinking about providing employment because of the affordable housing initiative, it is a thing that can create a lot of jobs. Think about the range of the skills that are required, for example, in a project. You start all the way from planners, you start from quantity surveyors, you come to architects, you come to project managers, you come to finance people, you come down to supervisory and all the artisan labor. It is so huge. And the fact that, like I'm insisting, it is being done around the country. It's not only in Nairobi, because people assume that people in Nairobi are those who are jobless. Come to the villages. People don't have anything to do. People don't have work. And these young men are energetic. If we want to reduce the crime in our nation, we ought to engage these young men to do something. So you can imagine that how many plumbers will be required. If I don't know whether you are keen to notice the number of people who traveled to Qatar when they were preparing for the World Cup. There was a lot of labor force spent there. You can imagine that was only the World Cup. How about if we're doing 50,000 projects? We need a lot of jobs spread across the country.
Yeah. Of course, in line with that, again, I find that the problem that maybe Australians have been talking about is when we talk about the issue of the cost of material, even for affordable housing. There is, or there has actually been for majority of Kenyans and even different stakeholders in terms of ensuring that we have access to these that maybe most of these materials come from outside. What do you think needs to be done in terms of maybe creation of industries to produce local available materials? How far can it go also in enhancing this particular program?
One of the things that has made houses very expensive is because of the importation of materials for construction. We still depend, of course, on imported fuel. We are dependent, and fuel is such a big factor. Every manufacturing area, and generally also the Kenya shilling and its major currencies. If you think about what is happening currently, the cost of production has become so high because we are importing very many of our products. And I think one of the ways that we can develop as a nation is through industrialization. We have no choice. Like I said, we have the resources. If it's about construction, many of the construction materials depend purely mainly on soil and mining products. And God has graciously given us land as a nation. But because of lack of technology and innovation, we have been sourcing these products out there. But the trends are changing. If you look at our country today, we have very, very, very many industries that are coming into play. We have very many people who are coming to do manufacturing. We have locally made products that will ease construction. So that is helping in making our homes affordable. And so we don't need to depend and import things. Maybe we can import what we have capacity to do, but what we have capacity to do, I believe the government needs to do something to encourage investors to come and be able to invest here, to be able to come up with these materials that are required in the building construction.
So fantastic. Now, I know this is something that is important, and maybe the majority of Kenyans would want to see in Kenya that maybe you ask, especially those who have come away. That is something that they desire. Now, when we look at a program like this, and looking maybe even duration that maybe it can actually take, what do you think needs to be done? Because there are those maybe who are fearful that there is a lot of bureaucracy along the way, and it is something that can actually maybe just be said, but for maybe a Kenyan, for the average Kenyan, maybe to a position to realize that this is something that the said, and at least at this particular time we've come to realize. What do you think needs to be to ensure that this is a dream that comes true?
I think a lot of sensitization and information needs to be put out there, because we are aware that it has already started. We are aware. And, but then without information, people are just going to think about housing. They are not really houses. I think a lot of information on what the government is doing needs to be put out there so that people can see what is happening and be able to appreciate what is being done. I know that this is the beginning of the project, and so obviously we are starting to these bottlenecks and so many things that need to be put in place. But I believe once things start flowing, then there should be people will start seeing. Like things are going around the country. So I'm sure if you come to Nakuru County, you will see what the government of Nakuru is trying to do. If you go to Nairobi, you will see and know of what is happening in Ruiru and other places. So these things are going on, but information is not out here. So people don't know where are these houses. If you listen to people, they taxing as well houses. Are you sure houses will never happen or will never be there? But I think information needs to be put out there.
Wow, yeah. We need to have information. And of course, we know the government, as it comes up with this particular program, I know there are other very relevant stakeholders that would actually also maybe need, would actually be interested in also maybe partnering with the government. And how do you think this kind of partnership or this kind of working together would enhance the effectiveness and the success of the program?
First of all, let me say that affordable housing is not only done by the government, the private sector. If you look at many developers, they also realize the gap that exists in the housing, and that's because they have been doing the affordable and the market-driven houses. But if you go to many estates, you'll find that you'll find a developer doing low-income houses that are affordable. You'll find many people are selling one-bedroom houses at 2.5 million. And so on and so forth. So this is an initiative that is not only with the government, but is also with the private sector, because everybody has realized that we are gravitating towards things that are out of reach by the common manchi, and life is not easy. So we can only afford what we can be able to afford. And so there are so many things that are into play and needs to be into play as we engage in affordable housing. One of the things that needs to be there and has been such a bottleneck is the process of gaining approvals. For example, by the government. You know, we have the NCA, National Construction Authority, we have the county governments, and some of the licenses that that are being asked by people who want to own homes are completely out of reach. They are put off because they are so expensive, they are so hard to get by. You're trying to implement something and then somebody just comes and tells and puts such a big X onto your building, and you're wondering. So I think, first of all, there's a lot of sensitization that needs to be done, and I think also the government needs to appreciate when someone is trying to do something. I'm not talking about unscrupulous constructors or contractors who are, of course, endangering the lives of Kenyans by building very substandard homes, and we are losing lives, and very many people are becoming permanently disabled because of their recklessness. I'm talking about somebody who is adhering to standards, but the process of even getting any approval is taking so long, to a point where someone feels desperate and starts to move on with the construction. By the time they start moving on in construction, then the supervising agencies come and stop that construction. It becomes such a big deal. So I think the county governments, the national government, needs to make us be able to own homes without struggle. When we come to the financing institutions, the process of obtaining, for example, a mortgage to own a general home has become such a big deal. Of course, we know that nowadays the loans, number one, have become very expensive, and of course with that the defaulting also rate goes high. But I'm thinking, unlike other sectors, if you look at vehicle financing, it's normally very easy. to get, because they say the collateral is the vehicle. But a vehicle, you can do anything, it's a movable asset, isn't it? But when you think about a house, that is even a safer collateral than even a vehicle. So even the government and the Bankers Association needs to make sure that people are able to get finances to be able to afford homes easily. And we hope that through this affordable government initiative, that the right owners will also be given the opportunity to own these homes. We also have experienced where we have cases where the government has built homes, but politicians end up being the owners of these homes, and then becoming landlords to the people who should have been given these homes, which is such a big, it's a vice. It's a vice. The government must make sure that once these houses have been done, they have been given to the rightful owners. The opportunities have been given to the right people to own the homes.
Great. I introduced you as the director Ultimate Home Finishes. Maybe for the purposes of our viewer, what are you involved in?
Ultimate Home Finishes is an institution that deals with supplies of home finishes. And so once you're done with doing the structure of your building, whether it's a commercial building, whether it's a church, whether it's a hospital, whatever it is, then we come into play and we supply you with building materials to ease your finishes. And we basically deal with all the home finishes. We deal with ceilings, we deal with the floors, we deal with toilets, we deal with paints. We generally, once you're done with structures, we'll come to our outlets. We are ready to supply you with things that will help you to finish your home.
Thank you so much, Rahab Wangoi, for your contribution in the mid-morning pack on this very, very crucial subject.
Thank you so much.
That is also being very, very much considered by the government, affordable housing. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
And that's why we bring it to our close, of course. See you on the other side of this particular conversation with my colleague, Paul Kagi. My name is Mwangicho Mola. Yes, and of course, that is the interview that we had, of course, promised you. We will bring you with Rahab Wangoi. She's an expert in matters housing and of Kagi. She's talked quite a number of issues there. Yeah. Quite a number of elements that are critical, even as the government continues with this particular agenda. And I think one of the areas one of our cameramen here, Peter Omogi, when the interview was going on, he's telling me that he's done his mathematics, basic mathematics, in relation to the levy that we are paying to the government, and he's seen that he's going to benefit from that particular house when he's 88 years old.
88 years old, you have already finished all the basics that are needed for you. Yes. And you no longer get interest to anything. And the best thing is to have it when?
Yes.
Right now.
Right now, yeah. So, exactly. And actually, that is one of the questions that I'd put to Rahab. Because I was asking him, yes, this is a good program, but now when it comes to realizing this particular program as quick as possible, because at the end of the day, you're going to say that you are building homes for Kenyans for a very long time. Kenyans would want to have that particular project. So that is one of the areas that I think, even as we continue with this particular discussion, even as the government continues with this particular agenda, they have to be very, 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 very clear. Yes. They have to make it very clear in terms of establishing and the implementation.
Yes, and we have three basic needs for a human being: food, shelter, and clothing. Imagine a scenario where you're having a young family right now, or maybe now a family, and maybe in the next 2 or 3 years you have a family and God blesses you with 2 or 3 children. And one of the key things that every person would love to see is you have a better place, a better housing for those children that you have been given. Maybe you stay with them for like 20 or 30 years in the same house, because after 30 years maybe they will go and find their own shelter. Okay. And therefore it will be unfortunate when they are gone to find their own life is when your housing is coming. Okay. But I love the way she was saying that we also need support from the bank.
Yeah, sure.
That financial institutions need to support public on how to acquire finances. Maybe you are not waiting for the government housing. If a bank can be able to provide enough resources for you to be able to build your own house, I think that is even much better.
Exactly, and that information is also maybe something that we need to make it very clear, because the government is saying it's going to do 250,000 per year, okay?
Yes.
So 250,000 per year. So in the government's first 5-year term, and remember the first year is already gone. So maybe, okay, let's just say that maybe they're going to do 1 million.
Yeah.
Okay. 1 million against a population of how many Kenyans? Okay.
She is talking about we are heading to 60 million.
We are heading to 60 million. Yeah. So even if you were to give this particular government 2-year term, okay, let's say hopefully that the president will be re-elected in 2027 and be given another mandate of 5 years, that is from 2027 to 2032. And she does another, so by 2032 they'll have done 2 million houses. Okay,
it's too far. It's just too far.
It will be too far. And now, already in the picture that maybe some Kenyans have, especially maybe those who are actually even below the middle class, that we are waiting for the government to build us houses. So I'm seeing a situation whereby maybe a lot of Kenyans will be frustrated.
A lot.
Here we are, already you started cutting us the levies for the houses, but there is nothing that we are seeing.
Yes, again, she mentioned about the issue of politicians who are very key.
Yes.
Who are very key in such kind of situations, whereby she is fearing that this house was meant for Mangicho, but it ends up in the hands of a politician who again ends up to be your landlord. You see? So I think it's a whole lot of planning, a lot of deliberations, and see the reality of this matter.
Sure.
And maybe the government could plan with banks to help it to be able to build these houses. Banks are very able to do this.
Banks are very able, and that is why we've had a lot of challenges because maybe banks are not coming in there to help people, and even maybe those who they want to be supported, they have to really prove in terms of security.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of security, in terms of those that are going maybe to be the guarantors. And therefore you find. And actually that is one thing, and that is why I asked, and I know a very great population, a very large population of Kenyans are dependent on rental houses. A very big chunk. Okay, a very big chunk. And so some Kenyans, of course, it is an easier way of maybe ensuring that at least you can be able maybe to undertake your daily activities and still have a place to put your head on. But at the end of the day, in this particular rental house, and as much as, of course, it can give you service, but you don't have that confidence, you don't have that liberty that maybe one would have when they had their own home.
One more question, Mangicho, which many people ask. For example, let's talk about those people who are in the villages. We have a lot of people who are in the villages.
Yes.
And everybody is living in his or her own land.
Sure.
And because they are entitled to affordable housing, they are in the program, they have been paying the levy. Can you try to visualize how it is going to be implemented, that you have been paying the levy, the time has come for you to get your house? It's yours. Are you going to live in those estates where, or maybe that land where the government has built the houses? You leave your own land, you go to live in the place where the government built the houses. I think the best thing which Kenyans could have more confidence with is to build houses on your own land. On your own land. It is very enticing.
That is one other thing that most Kenyans also pointed out. And of course, there has been that feeling that when it comes now to this matter of public participation, even on this particular agenda, on this particular matter, I don't think, and most Kenyans are also of the opinion, that maybe there was no sufficient public participation, because when it comes also to owning a home, it's also a very personal affair. Okay, individuals actually choose. Okay, they decide upon themselves, this is where I want to rest. This is what I want to put up a place for my people, for my family. No one is compelled. No one is coerced. Okay, it's something that is very personal and very private. So I agree with you that it is not. You cannot just begin out to tell people that I've built for you a home in this particular place. What if they don't want? What if they don't like?
If you go to a place like Kabati constituency in Nakuru County,
yes.
I got a chance to be able to cross there. And there's a place they are planning to build houses for those people in that area. And I was looking at how that place is vast with people who are living in rural areas. And I was asking myself, does it mean that all these people are going to live in this place they are living to come and live in Bahati where the houses are? Or what is going to happen? So those questions are very many. No one is answering those questions. To be able to give Kenyans that confidence in their contribution.
Yeah. That's absolutely awesome there. And of course, the other thing that most Kenyans are also hoping that would come with this particular project is the issue to do with creation of job opportunities. And we know that the unemployment factor has become a thorn in the flesh in this particular country. And even talking to Rahab, because I asked her, what do you think could be the contribution that this particular program is going to have in terms of ensuring that more and more Kenyans can access job opportunities? Yes, she's of the opinion that the construction industry can actually accommodate so many Kenyans. But you can still imagine that we still have a lot that maybe would be waiting, okay? So if we were actually to ensure that we also absorb so many Kenyans, it also depends maybe on how wide, okay, how large this particular program is going to be.
There's one constituency that is being disadvantaged on this program in terms of employment, our ladies.
Yeah.
Because we have very few ladies who are in the construction industry. Sure. So I think they are the most disadvantaged in this program.
Yeah. Actually, we did another interview with her on women in building and construction. Maybe we'll have it some other time. But I totally agree with you that is an area that really needs to be looked into because for a very long time it has been male-dominated, and there is that perception that this is a field for the...
Even if today you go to the TVET colleges, you'll find there are very few ladies who are doing these courses, the plumbing, which is very key in this housing, the issue of electricians, masons, carpenters. They are very, very few. The ratio is very low.
Sure.
And everybody can tell you, even if you go to pick them on the ground, it's very hard for you to find ladies who can be able to get these job opportunities. So they are very disadvantaged.
They are very disadvantaged, yeah. And maybe one more thing, Kagi, because we just have like a minute and a half, the issue of the cost of affordable housing in terms of the material. Talking to Rahab, she's still of the opinion that as a country, we still rely on importation of so many material that makes it very, very hard maybe for us to be in a position to manage this particular initiative. And if there was a way in which the government would ensure that we exhaust our locally available materials,
it would be very cheap.
It would be very cheap.
The sand, the concrete, and everything. And they are readily available.
The building stones.
Yes, they are there.
They're there.
The government could buy those quarries.
The quarries, and even see maybe we can also have maybe even our own machines of excavating.
Right.
Yeah, that I think would be very good. Because we are pressed for time, Kagi, but I think that was quite illuminating, quite an eye-opener. And we also want to appreciate you so much, our dear viewer, for having us today on the mid-morning park. Of course, trying to have some focus on this very, very pertinent agenda and the program, because when you have an affordable and quality house, then it really adds a lot in terms of you having the confidence of doing or coming up or actually undertaking your daily activities. And that is why we bring it to a close for today. On behalf of the entire team that has made it a success, to wish you a very lovely afternoon and enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Mangi Chomola.
Once again, I want to thank you for finding time to be able to watch over us. Welcome to Mid Morning Park. Next week, Paul Kagi is my name.